guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video I'm excited to do because I've already done a video where I went through all of the 2021 releases that I've read this year that are romances and given you my thoughts on them, and I've decided to go through all of the books I've read so far this year and talk about the 5-star reads. There's a lot less on here than I thought there would be. I need to pull up my Goodreads real quick and check how many books I've actually read this year, and it's always so hard to find. Reading challenge. I have read 133 books so far as of May 9th, 10th? I don't even know what day it is. It is the 9th today. As of May 9th, I have read 133 books, and I have only 19 5-star books, and I'm not counting 4.5 stars that I've rounded up to 5 on Goodreads. These are without a doubt 5-star reads, and so I've been reading really great books this year, but I've been really harsh in my ratings where I will not give it 5 stars unless I absolutely loved it. So I will go ahead and get to these. I actually added 2 within the last week, so when I had planned out this video I only had like 17, but I did read 2 5-star reads and another 4.5-star read. So I just feel like I can't give a book 5 stars unless I absolutely loved it. I'm a little bit harsher on my 5-star reads, but before we get into it, I have someone I want you guys to follow. So I've been doing this for a couple of videos a week, and I usually pick someone who's like close to reaching a milestone on their channel, but I've decided to do someone who could reach a milestone if you guys go follow her, and that is Tori from A Novel Life. The day I'm filming this, I don't know when this is going up. I'm pre-filming a lot because I can't film next weekend, so I don't know if this is going up this week, next week, I don't know, but Tori has 670 subscribers. I swear I thought she had like almost 2,000. I don't know like where that came from, but I love Tori's videos. I watch them all the time. I love the books she reads. She reads a lot of historical romance, regular romance. I do think she reads some nonfiction as well, and she joined recently-ish. She joined 5 months ago, and I've been watching her almost since then. I've been watching her for a long time. We're friends. I love Tori, but I think you guys should check out her videos because she deserves so many more followers than she has. Like I said, I thought she had way more than she has, but she recently did an ebook haul. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. I did watch and loved her April wrap-up. She read a ton, but she was doing a lot of manga this month for like the challenge, like 30 and 30, trying to read 30 manga in 30 days, but then the rest was all like historicals and contemporary, and then she did a vlog reading new to me historical romance authors. And if you have not yet, please go follow Tori. Let's see. Only if you want to. Whenever I recommend these creators, only follow them if you genuinely want to. Go take a look at her content. Go watch a couple of her videos. If you want to subscribe, please do. I think we can get her to, can we get her to 1,000? She only needs 330 more subscribers. I think you guys can do it. So go ahead and give Tori a follow if you haven't, and let's see if we can get her to 1,000. And that's my recommendation for today, but I'm gonna go ahead and get to all of the 5-star books I've read this year. The first one, I have a few young adult books on here that are romances, so I'm gonna include those. There's not too many in here. I think there's literally only 2, and it's the first and the second to last one. But the first one I have on here is Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant. If you guys have been following me this year, I think I've talked about this quite a bit. I just love this book so much. I read an e-arc of it as one of the first books of the year, and I blew through it in a day. Our heroine is a writer, and I love books about writers. She's a romance writer, and she gets into this prestigious school for like arts and stuff, so it's like writing, and I don't know if there's like singing, dancing, there's like culinary stuff, there's a lot here. And her mother actually is the one who submitted her writing there. She hasn't shared her writing with people, only her best friend, and so she gets in and she gets a lot of, not stage fright, but kind of imposter syndrome, like I am not good enough to be here, and she completely freezes and can't write anymore. And so her best friend, she keeps on talking to her on the phone even though they don't go to school together anymore, and her friend's like, you know what, we need to create a romance for you so that then you get your mojo back with writing and get more inspiration. And so they immediately like dial in on the like it guy in high school. He's in the writing program, he's super cute, he's super popular, and they try to like make them be a thing. But there's also a boy next door who is absolutely adorable, and they're kind of starting to like each other too, so it's a little bit of a love triangle. Things get a little messy, you know, teenagers. I work with teenagers daily, and they're very messy in their relationships, the things I hear. But it was just so much fun, and I definitely recommend reading this. I just loved it. I just almost said I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but you know, because it's in this video, all of these are 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Inevitable Addiction by Christina C. Jones. This is book 3 in the Inevitable series. The first one, you guys know, Inevitable Conclusions, is like my absolute favorite, and this is actually the the daughter of Cora from the first book, and Cora had her very young, so Cora's in her late 30s, and our heroine in this book is in her early 20s, and she is an actress, and she actually decides to go to grief counseling therapy group for her acting skills. She hasn't lost anybody, but she goes there for acting, and she meets a guy who is there, and it is their romance, and it was a lot of fun. I really liked it. He does have a past of his own that could come out if the paparazzi like catch on that she's dating him, and so they kind of want to keep it on the down low, but those things come out, and she is dealing with a lot of stress at work because she's always seen as someone who is hard to work with and demanding, and she's not, and that kind of persona is like put on her even though she's not that way. And so it was really interesting to read. I think if you really love she's not like super famous, but someone who is in the like acting career, I think you would like this. She's in like performances and plays and stuff because her mom is a director, and that was like part of her storyline in book 1. But I love this. We get to see her mom and her mom's love interest, and it was great. 5 out of 5 stars for this one. I love Christina C. Jones so much. No surprise that she's on this list. Oh, I should have mentioned, not all of these are new releases. So these are all books that I've read this year. Some of them are older releases, some of them recently came out, but we gotta make sure. The next one though, no surprise here, is The Raycast by Scarlett Peckham. I talk about this book all the time when talking about historicals. I love this one. I was kind of hesitant because people either really love it or really hate it. I really loved it. Our heroine, she is seen as a very morally loose woman. She is not ashamed to say that she's been with men, and in society that is awful. Even though the men can do whatever they want, the women are not supposed to, and so she's really looked down upon it, especially because she's a woman, even though someone who pretty much led her down this path has the same kind of reputation, is praised for it. So it really looks at how men and women are looked at differently in society because of their personal lives. And so she does meet this architect, and I think he lives next door. He's like renting a place next door, and he has kids. He lost his wife. Trigger warnings for death of a loved one and loss of a child. She was pregnant when she passed away, and he is still really grief-stricken over that, but they start forming a relationship, and it's amazing. And she's writing a book too about like her history and like who she is and why she is the way she is, kind of thing, and it's amazing. I loved every second of this. I cannot wait to read more from Scarlett Peckham. I'm hoping there's book 2 in this series coming out. I'm obsessed with the cover, and because I think it's part of a series. Oh, it says spring 2021. It is spring 2021. I don't know if book 2 is coming out soon. I'll have to look it up, but I have another book by her on my TBR. I cannot rave about this enough. Then I just talked about this in a video that's going to come out next week, and that is The Sum of All Kisses by Julia Quinn. This is book 3 in the series, and it's my absolute favorite. Our hero was in a duel. Book 1 has to do with the sister of the guy who was in the duel with the hero of this book, and then book 2 is that guy's book, and then book 3 is his book. So you definitely have to read them in order. But he was in a duel, and he got shot in the leg and really hurt his leg. It's like irreparable. So he does have a limp, and he has to walk with a cane, and he really hates having that limitation on himself. A couple of times he just gets really frustrated, like he can't be fully like a man because of what happened to him. And our heroine hates him because she blames him for why she's single, which I won't spoil why, but she isn't put in charge of him at a wedding, and they have to spend more time together, and they're constantly like forced together, and she kind of sees a different side of him, and they start falling for each other, and it's just so cute. I love this so much. I know not a lot of people love this book for some reason because it's amazing, but I absolutely loved it. The whole series is fantastic. I have not though read the last one because I heard it's really bad. This is the Smythe-Smith Quartet. I just like had a freak out that I couldn't remember what the series was, but I've heard the last one is really bad. Like people absolutely hate the last book, so I haven't gotten into it yet. Even like my friend Lacey from Lacey Book Lover says it is not good, so I haven't finished the series, but the first 3 are amazing. The next one's The Duchess War by Courtney Milan. I again love this book so much. So if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of historical romances on here. All I wanted to read during the beginning of the year was historical romances. I've only read one this month so far though, that I'm on right now. I miss them. But this one, our heroine is hiding from her betrothed in the beginning of the book, and she is discovered by a duke, and she's trying not to like be found, and then her and the duke start spending more time together because there is also this scandal happening where there are these like flyers put around trying to get workers to protest for better like conditions and money and stuff like that, and people think it's her, and she's like, no, it's not me, but she has a secret of why she doesn't want to be noticed by people. And what also happens is she has a really bad anxiety because of something that happened in her past. She doesn't like a lot of people paying attention to her, like in large crowds, and her and him spend more time together, and it's super adorable watching them fall in love. He is just so protective of her by the end, especially with her anxiety, and I loved it so much. I definitely recommend reading this one, and I can't wait to read book 2. Courtney Milan is a new favorite historical romance author of mine, so I can't wait to continue on in this series. Then we have If the Duke Demands by Anna Harrington, another all-time favorite of mine now, and our heroine, she is not like a titled person. She grew up next door to a wealthy family, and she always played with them though, and she's really into one of the brothers, and so she decides she's finally gonna seduce him at a masquerade, and she sneaks into his room, but it's the wrong room. It is the older brother, and she is in the process of seducing him, realizes it's not him, and they did kiss, and she's like, oops. And so he actually needs a wife. He's the Duke. And so she agrees to help him find a wife if he agrees to help her seduce his brother. They fall in love in the process. I really love a good romance where they are trying to like help each other get a different person for one of them. That's what the last book in the Bridgerton series is, and I love that book, and that's how this one is as well, and it's just so much fun. And then they start falling for each other, but then he's like, no, I can't marry someone like her. I need someone who is a duke's wife, and I love a good class difference too. So this is all the tropes I love. So good. Then I read A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas and gave it 5 stars. This one was really good. I don't know how much time I want to spend on this. You guys all know Sarah J Maas. This is the book 4 in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and it is Nesta's story. It's Nesta and Cassian, and Nesta is broken so badly from what happened to her in book 3, and she's not even trying to like deal with it and overcome it. She is just living day by day, not in a really healthy way, and so they like have an intervention and force her to move into this castle, and Cassian's gonna be training her, and she's working in this library, and it's amazing. I love the sisterhood bond in this of the women who come together and become friends. It's amazing. I love this one. Then we have Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks, which I also talk about all the time. Our heroine is deaf. She lost her hearing during an accident. I think she ended up getting sick and lost her hearing, and people think that she has just lost like brain function, even though she is very intelligent, and she lets them think that. She can read lips, she's very smart, and she just like follows along with what people say, and she ends up having to get married to a rival clan. This is a Highlander romance, and so she has to get married to the laird of the clan, so she goes there and she befriends his sister really, which I absolutely loved, and the sister finds out first that she can actually like hold a conversation and knows what's happening. And the people of the clan though are super mean to her, like do rude pranks to her to try to just like push her out, and he becomes super overprotective of her and understands now that she can speak and tries to communicate with her, and it's so good. One of my favorite historical romances of all time as well. I definitely could not recommend this enough if you need some historical recommendations, but I'm so happy I finally picked this up. Then I almost forgot this one, but Heartstopper by Alice Oseman is a graphic novel, and it is the cutest thing ever. I have the second one from the library out. I haven't gotten to it yet. Hopefully I can get to it soon. It is about Nick and Charlie, and one of them is openly gay and the other one doesn't really know his sexuality, and they start playing rugby together. I'm pretty sure it's rugby, and they become really, really close friends and then start crushing on each other, but they don't know what to do in the end. Oh my gosh, so it's such a sweet romance of them like kind of like, what is this? Are we like kind of liking each other or something more than friends? And then in the end I was just like, excuse me. So I do have book 2 now, which I'm super excited for, but if you just want a super adorable graphic novel, check this out. And I think it's going to be a movie or a show. I saw that online, so you have to pick this up. Then we have My Darling Duke by Stacy Reid. I don't know why it took me so long to read this, but our hero is scarred. He was in a really bad fire when he was younger, and so he is scarred a lot, and he also finds it hard to walk for long periods of time because then his skin and muscles get really tight, and so he's a recluse. He hasn't been in society for a long time, and our heroine needs a husband. She needs to, I think it's to be able to have her sisters have like a better life, and they don't have any money, and so she decides to put in the paper that she is betrothed to him. I think it's just so that her sisters can get a good match, like if she's betrothed to a duke, and he's interested. He's like, who is this woman who is saying I'm married to her? And so his like solicitors actually like give her money in like think that she's actually betrothed to him before she's even like met him in real life. But then he shows up at an event in society and is like, hi fiance, and they strike a bargain and an agreement that he will continue to act as her fiance, and they have to go to Scotland together and spend the night in a cabin in the middle of the woods together, and it's just so good. It's so good. Literally, I love this book so much. I don't know why it took me so long to read it. I have the second book already. I need to read it already. I didn't love the audiobook, but if you do pick this up, I definitely recommend physically reading it. The narrators were not my favorite, but so good. This is the second to last historical romance, I promise, but the next one is Mine Till Midnight by Elise. I listened to this book on audio. This one's so good. So our heroine, she has a bunch of siblings, and the brother like inherits this title that like nobody wants, and so they go to this estate, and it's really run down, but at the beginning starts with her trying to find her brother because he's just a drunk and he doesn't want this title because of something that happened in his past, and she meets this guy who I think he owns the bar. It's Cam, and he helps her find her brother, and then they are like really into each other, but then he ends up being at the neighboring estate from when they go to their estate in the countryside to try to fix it up, and he's there, and he is so protective of her and definitely is really interested and goes out of his way to help her, and they fall for each other, and it's amazing. I really love this. I love the family. The second book, the relationship that is hinted, I need to read it now. I'm so excited, but if you like the whole family dynamic as well, you'd love this one. Okay, we have another one I talk about all the time, but it is Beautiful and Dirty by Katrina Jackson. This is a novella. I don't know why I loved it so much. I think it was just something I needed in the moment. Our heroine is in a relationship that she's not loving anymore. She's been in it for like 8 years or something, and she's like really getting fed up with her boyfriend, and so she decided to just like leave him and go off. They're in Italy together, and everything he does is just like seriously. So she decides to leave by herself and go and do whatever she wants for the day, and so she ends up coming across this restaurant, and she goes in and eats, and there's this enticing, dark, dangerous man there, and he is part of the, I think he's part of the mafia, and he is married, but they both have really bad partners, so there is cheating in here. I didn't mind it, but if you don't like cheating, you might not want to read this. But they just have a moment together, and then the book goes from there. It's great. It's short. There's not a lot to it, but I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to read book 2. Then the last historical romance is A Week to Be Wicked by Tessa. This one I literally laughed out loud multiple times. It was so funny. Our heroine is a scientist. She loves like fossils and stuff, and so she discovers a fossil, and she wants to go to this convention in Scotland to present her findings. She's part of the like club of men scientists, and she only submitted her initials, so they don't know that she's not a man, and so she needs to go to Scotland. And this guy, I think he's a duke, he needs money. He needs to get married by the time he's 21 in order to inherit something, I think, or he has to like wait a certain amount of time before he can get it. And so it's like rumor that he's courting her sister, and she doesn't want him to ruin her sister's reputation, so she tries to strike a bargain with him and says, I'll marry you if you take me to Scotland. As initially he's like, absolutely no way, but then he agrees. He is traumatized over losing his parents when he was young, so he can't ride in a coach, and so they have to take a lot of different kinds of transportation. Lots of shenanigans ensue. It is absolutely hilarious. At one point one of them gets kidnapped, and it's so funny. I love this so much. If you like a traveling romance that was just so entertaining, like things were constantly happening in this book, you have to read this one. Then I read My Life in Shambles by Karina, Halley, and gave it 5 stars. At this one, it was so good. I listened to the audiobook, and our heroine is not in a great place. Her fiance breaks up with her. She loses her apartment, which she was living with her fiance, I think, and then loses her job, so she's home for Christmas, and her sisters are like, you need to come to Ireland with us. She initially said no because of work, but then she decides to go, and she meets a guy at a bar. He's like brooding, but everybody knows him, but she doesn't know him. He's a famous rugby player, and so she goes up and says hi, asks him out, or like for a drink. He says no, but then he is really intrigued by her, so then he like finds her again, and they spend the night together, and he asks her to be his fake fiance for his dad who's dying, and she does. And the story goes from there. I will say one of the main characters does end up having an illness, so be aware of that going into this. It turns very serious very fast, because then they kind of have to turn into like taking care of them and figuring out how to live with this illness and falling in love in the process, but then they don't know if they're actually falling in love or feel obligated, or if it's just like fake for his dad, and his dad is sick as well, so that's also a big part of this book. But I loved it. I loved the Irish setting as well. I loved how we had a rugby main character. So good. Then I read Flock by Kate Stewart because TikTok told me to. It's for a TikTok reading vlog and it's so good. This one I don't want to say too much. Our heroine is at her dad's for the summer before she goes off to college, and she's working for her dad's company, and she meets some guys, and that's the story. This one was just so addicting. The beginning's a little slow, but then things really pick up. And it's really good. Then I read Twisted Loyalties by Cora Riley. This one is book 1. I gave book 2 4.5 stars, even though I loved it. So book 1 is our heroine. Her mom's a drug addict, so she goes to rehab, and she goes to stay with her dad, who has a gambling problem, so she's really not in a better position anyway, so she decides to get a job. She gets a job at a bar that's pretty much owned by the mafia, and there are a lot of like fights there, and she starts falling for someone who fights there, and he ends up being like the right-hand man of the capo of the Camorra Mafia, and she doesn't know who he is though, so she's not scared of him, and he's like, how is this woman not scared of me? But he's super protective of her, and it's great. It's mafia romance. I'm obsessed with this series. Book 2 was really good, but I only gave it 4.5 stars, and then book 3, so good, like my absolute favorite. Could have been one of my favorites of the year. I don't know if it will make it though, because the ending was annoying and slow. But we have in the 3rd book is the actual capo of the Camorra, and he kidnaps the bride of his rival mafia, and he ends up kidnapping her. He doesn't want to hurt her, but he wants it to like look like he's hurting her, and so they end up falling for each other, and she like willingly is with him, and then things go from there. It was so good. It's like kind of captor captive. She like really hates him, but then she really starts liking him, and he actually like snuggles with her and cuddles, and she's like, he never does that. He is just this hardened killer, and he is falling for her too, and it's so good. I love this one so much. I need to read more in the series. I'm obsessed. The next is the YA book, and that is In Deep Waters by F.T. Lukens. This is another one that's going to be in a video next week, and it is a fantasy historical romance, and it is MM. We have Tal, who is the 4th son of a royal, but he has magic, and people kind of whisper that he has magic, but no one knows it because the last person in the royal family who had magic like destroyed everybody and like tried to take over the world basically, and so he's hiding his magic, but he's on his coming of age tour, so he gets to like go on a ship to a bunch of countries, and he's with his brothers and his guard, and they come across this ship that's burning in the sea, and that's where Athlin is, and he is like chained to the ship. So they rescue him, and Tal's put in charge of him, and the romance goes from there. It is just like so cute and adorable, and Tal grows so much throughout this book and really explores his magic, and it's fantastic. I couldn't recommend this enough. I loved it so much, and more people need to read it. The last one I literally read in a day yesterday. Like, I listened to the audiobook and could not stop, and it is Ever After Always by Chloe Elise. This is a marriage in trouble. We have Freya and Aiden. Aiden is the professor from book 1, and Freya is actually the sister of the guy from book 1, and it's all like the Bergman siblings, and she and him are on the rocks. We start off in the book when they already are having a lot of trouble. She kind of kicked him out, and it has to do with having kids, and they don't know how to communicate with each other, so then they go to counseling, and they have to go on vacation with her family. I love the family in this book. They're amazing. I cannot wait for book 4, and they learn to communicate and talk through their problems. Aiden is struggling with anxiety and doesn't know how to talk to her about it. She is really frustrated with the whole fact about them having kids and how he's reacting to it, and she also is a curvy heroine, which I loved. We'd have a little bit of that in here, and she does mention a couple scenes in here that have to do with maybe her going shopping and how the employees act around her, but she is really comfortable with her body, but she does have some insecurities, which I loved. It was just super body positive, and this book was just amazing. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with the family. I loved their scenes on vacation. I could not stop reading this book. No surprise, I loved it. And those are the romances that I gave 5 stars this year so far. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you gave them, or what your 5-star reads this year are. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.